Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope that you're all well, brothers and sisters. This is your host, Brother Abu Musa. And I'm coming live to you from the studios of Apni Awaz. And today's show, as always, I try to wrap up the week's news and views, try to catch whatever's trending, and try to wrap it up for you in an hour and just express some of my own thoughts and views. So today, inshallah, I'm trying to keep my brain active and energized via my little energy drink that I have. I'm just going to take a sip. That's great. Great to stimulate the brain. It sparks a lot of conversation for me, inshallah. So anyway, we discussed the first subject there. I'll move on to the next one. And this next one, a quick little disclaimer, is a bit of an adult theme. Kind of shocked me, to be honest, when I heard it. I was actually sat in my car driving, listening to Radio 4, and I heard this news story. And honestly, it really hit me hard. I thought, wow, subhanallah, look at the nature of some people. They're so lost, so confused in this world that they perform such despicable acts. I don't know if those of you brothers and sisters that might have heard of this story. It's about a French couple, and very elderly couple actually. They're in their 70s now, and the husband, he's been carrying out some very abusive sexual acts upon his wife. It's a very disturbing story, but I want to bring your attention, and I want to obviously highlight some issues here that I want to discuss afterwards. But just to give you a brief of the story here. There's a French lady in her 70s now, and her husband also ex-husband in his 70s as well. So over a period of 10 years, brothers and sisters, over a period of 10 years, he has been deliberately drugging his wife, putting her to sleep. And he's been communicating with men and getting them to come to his house and perform sexual acts on his wife whilst she's in a state of unconsciousness. So this has been going on over 10 years. So apparently from the case, police have reported that I think it's been over 100, 200 men that have been involved in this case. And that really sickened me. I thought, subhanAllah, look at the disgraceful behavior of some of these kuffar, how they behave. It's shocking because to me, the biggest concern here is that when man is given freedom, and you look at the nature of society, and when desires are allowed to go out of control, they have no control over themselves or what they do. And this whole act that this individual has been involved with, and the only reason why they said the police caught him was because he was taking rude pictures of women in stores, and one security guard caught him taking pictures of women that he reported to the police, and the police arrested this individual. And then when the investigation investigated his house, uncovered images, videos of his computer. So this sparked a whole new trial for this individual, which is ongoing right now in France. And let's bear in mind, brothers and sisters, France is notorious for its anti-Islamic stance. Hardcore secular nation that believes that religion has no place in the life of men and women. But we can see, as a result of not having no religion, not having no God consciousness, what their societies have become. I mean, this despicable act is so despicable, it makes your stomach churn. And when I heard the story, I sat there thinking, my God, subhanAllah, what a filthy individual who could do such an act like that to his wife, who's bore his children. I think, this individual has 3 or 4 children as well that have been born in that family. And they witnessed the story, and they heard about their father, what he was doing. He was communicating to men, making them wait outside at night until his wife became unconscious. And he would invite them into his house, and he would film them acting upon his wife, performing these sick individual acts upon her. So subhanAllah, straight away what comes to my mind is, when I talk about the importance of society, brothers and sisters, and when we talk about establishing Islam within our framework of society, that because the societies are the way they are, and these liberal, toxic societies where God has no place, We see individuals completely running riot with their desires, doing whatever they want, however they want. Because even though you have law and order, what stops an individual from performing such behaviors like that, carrying out acts like that? Because to them, this life is one. They want to enjoy this life. They want to fulfill all of their inhibitions in this life. And because they don't believe in any accountability in the next life, they don't believe there's going to be a God who's going to question them. They'll do whatever they want because they're here to live this one life. And you're telling me that society doesn't play a role in shaping and molding behavior. When you look at the Islamic societies and how they were built, that, within those societies, there was a reminder that you will be resurrected. You will be, you will be judged by Allah. Even though that state apparatus had the legal system, the hudud to punish you, still people within those societies who had taqwa, they would self-regulate themselves and they would account themselves. But you had people who did commit sins, who did wrong, but they were punished by the system for those acts of immorality. But we see Western societies that they have become impregnated with this immoral conduct and immoral behavior. I don't want to open a can of worms, but you see how the red light district, the underworld of seediness, of prostitution, of exploitation of one's sexual desires, how it leads to such perverse behaviors and conduct that you see and hear such a story like this. And there's so many more stories that you can unearth and find out about some of the things that are going on. So, we have to understand that man needs some kind of regulation. You can't be left to your own desires to determine what is right and wrong, because we can't. Because according to this man's capacity and knowledge, he thought he could do something like that. He could carry out some kind of very very serious behavior like that. Very sickening behavior like that. So we have to kind of put those mechanisms in place. And even in the Islamic societies that we had, there were very rare cases where such people performed such acts that were of such a nature. It would not be heard of because it wasn't within those societies. It wasn't a norm. So subhanAllah, we need to understand that it's important that the society makeup, it governs our thoughts, it governs our emotions, it governs our behavior. But when we're left in a society where pedophilia is strife, rape is very high. Again, like I said, teenage pregnancy is very high. The openness of sexual relationships is very, very high. Then it's no surprise that people are resorting to some very weird and unusual habits and behaviors within society. Now, I don't want to go any more into this conversation because there's so much more to address, but I think that is enough for me to highlight the immorality and decline of this Western liberal society. I want to touch on another story that I came across in relation to one of the pro-Palestinian activists, Sarah Wilkinson. I watched a YouTube video recently of her account of her home being invaded, of being ransacked, of her rights being taken, her human rights being taken, of her being locked up in prison, of all her possessions being taken. It's a very horrific, scary story when I heard the account from Sarah and how the anti-terror police came into her home, barging in there, took over everything, gave her no rights of anything, to say anything, violating every human right possible. And it's scary when I heard the story that, those of us who try to speak the truth, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue giving patience to those people that are speaking the truth and trying to hold this society to account, because this society has no morals, has no limits. And I urge you to watch this story of Sarah Wilkinson. And her full story is a very harrowing story of her experiences with the police. Now, she's a journalist, a pro-Palestine activist, and all she's been doing is reporting on the genocide that Israel has been performing against the Muslims. She she's not kind of done anything against the law, but according to the anti-terror police, yes, she's a supporter of Hamas. She is a supporter of terrorism, which is far from the truth. Merely exposing the truth, exposing the lies and the hypocrisy of the Israeli regime. So, brothers and sisters, we are living in a climate of fear. We are living in a society that intimidates us, that wants to silence us, that doesn't want us to speak out against the zulm, the oppression that's going on, wants us to sort of like become quiet and accept the norm. It's a big brother state, a police state that is using its law enforcement against us. And those of us that are speaking the truth on platforms like this, alhamdulillah, Allah's give us a voice, and may Allah protect us and allow us to continue using this voice. But that is one story of many, and I want to address some of the other stories that are going on. There's been a story about Brother Majid Freeman, who's a very highly controversial social media influencer, who's been very active in exposing the crimes against Muslims and Islam. And he's been arrested. He's been put into arrest for 22 weeks. And I've been following Brother Majid Freeman for quite some time now. And he all he does is basically he exposes some of the hypocrisy that's going on out there throughout the world, here in the UK, throughout Europe, throughout the Muslim world. And there was an incident in Leicester, of course, when you had the whole Hind Dufta mob that marched to the Muslim communities of Leicester, very intimidatingly and very militant style, trying to provoke, attacking innocent Muslims that are found on their own. And his voice was what? His voice was that accounting the police, that why they've allowed such behavior to go on, that why has this not been stopped? And because of the use of language that he has used, apparently has got him arrested. Racially aggravating. But yet you find so many politicians speaking out against Muslims, against migrant communities, but yet they're allowed to do so, and they're not sparking no hatred. They're not sparking any kind of violent kind of outrage from communities. So we see a massive double standard here, brothers and sisters, and it goes on and on and on. You see the Quran burning. You see Muslims, drawing cartoons of the Prophet ﷺ. But the moment we do something, and that brings me on to the story that I was going to talk about, the sister Maria Hussein, who put up the placard of coconuts, and the coconuts she was referring to, Richie Sunak and Suella Braverman. Again, she was put on trial for her inflammatory use of her comical kind of use of the placard. But again, we look at the Charlie Hebdo incident, where the French saw nothing wrong with attacking the Prophet ﷺ, saw nothing wrong with making cartoons and satirical mockery of our Prophet ﷺ. When we were outraged, they didn't have an issue with it. Oh, it's freedom of our speech, freedom of our expression. But when we speak out and we say something, oh, you're attacking our values, you're racially aggravating a situation, you're creating disunity amongst Muslims, amongst communities. So, yeah, we can see the hypocrisy and double standards here. So, inshallah, we'll take another short little break and be with you very shortly after these short little breaks to continue this conversation.